that's why it's so important with our clients to dig deeper, because ultimately it's not your process may not be their process, right? So my inclination is to tell them to go do research and figure out, whatever. Your inclination is what results are you seeing, and how's that, you know everybody's going to have a different instinct in this space, and that's why that being curious, and it might be a space where you ask deeper about why, why rowing is important, why lifting is important, how does one benefit you versus the other, how, and you can sort of start to explore that space. Is there a way to combine the two? Is there
I think
or what is it that you're getting from this that you aren't getting from the other? Because ultimately there's a series of questions we've gone over a few times, and that's that when we're digging deeper towards the why with people, towards the emotional relevance, we ask, what does that give you, right? You guys know this, like, so if I have X, Y, and Z, what does that give me? Okay, well then and we keep going until we reach a point of exhausted, where it's like, what does that get you? What does that give you? What does that get you? And finally, you'll reach a point where you hit that end. With confirmation bias, you can do the same thing, because it's tied to an emotional belief. Like, the bias is tied to some kind of emotional belief. So you can go down the same path. What does believing that get you? What does that give you? What does that get? And you can keep going with people, and it might be a good way to not only learn more, but also to get to the root of that bias and why it exists to start with. So if I were to ask Jerome, what does believing in karma get you?
Yeah, Jerome.
Helps me sleep at night because I'm confirming my biases.
What is getting you to sleep at night give you?
It helps me wake up happier, and it gives me structure as well, I would say. Believing in karma gives me a little bit of structure that I can kind of align myself with and proceed in life with, which is nice to have. It's always nice to lean on something, kind of just as it would be should I, believe in a different religion, which again, karma is essentially my religion.
So what is having structure, and what is having that belief system give you?
Makes decisions easier. I'm not sitting around trying to decide what to do next. I already have a basic system set in place where I can kind of, just based on what I'm experiencing, pull answers from based on that system.
And then when you have a system in place and decisions are easier, what does that give you?
It gives me the ability to just do life, I think, easier. Life's easier when making decisions are easier. If you're always sitting around trying to decide what to do next, it can not only slow down life itself because you're always trying to figure out what that next step is, but it can make life a bit grueling. It really can be difficult if you don't know, and suck really if you don't know what to do next. It can really be bad to just, I feel like, your mental.
So that's what happens when you don't have it, when you don't have that in place. And I hear you saying it makes you feel like life becomes grueling, difficult. So when you have it in place, how do you feel?
Fulfilled. Again, life becomes maybe not necessarily fulfilled, but when it's in place, it definitely, I've got just like, when you're at the bowling alley, you've got rails that, you can stay in between. And it just, again, really, to simply explain it, it's just easier. It's just a lot easier to kind of have this structure that you can kind of lean on whenever things maybe get somewhat complicated as far as decision making is concerned. It gives me an easy pool to pull from when it comes to making decisions. And
So what happens when things are difficult?
what happens when things are difficult? Life becomes grueling. Then it becomes slower, and you have to make difficult decisions, which sucks sometimes. And I don't think anyone likes to be presented with difficult decisions to make on a regular basis.
Have you had difficult decisions to make in the past?
Yes, absolutely. Haven't we all? Yes, yes.
And tell me more about how you made it through those.
Really, with again this implemented system that I have, it helps me to understand that my decision is based on a belief that I have that I truly, throughout the the process of my life, have confirmed to be true personally. It really helps to understand that I made decisions based off of that rather than just randomly pulled some answers and hope that they worked. Because at the end of the day, I believe that that system that's in place for me is something that is tried and true and works. And at the end of the day, again, helps me sleep at night, makes me feel a little bit better about myself.
I have one more question in this space. What would happen if that system didn't exist?
Oh my God. I'd probably be searching for another system then. I would go out and look for something else that works for me. Um, but in that instance of non existence, of having no system at all, I have no idea. That's scary. That's scary to think of. There's just, I guess I would just kind of, I do things based off of what, my experiences kind of suggest that I do. What other people have done, what has I guess potentially worked in the past, but I'm not sure has or not. What I have done previous to whatever instance I'm in at that moment. Probably more so leaning on other people's decisions and thinking about the things that they've done in the past in that scenario, just because I have no idea what I would do personally.
In this imaginary realm where the system doesn't exist,
Hmm.
how would your decisions change?
They would slow down a lot. I think I do a lot more thinking, um, a lot more exploration in determining what my next step or answer is, which you know, kind of in retrospect sounds nice sometimes, but sometimes you don't have the time to do that. Sometimes you don't have all the time in the world to sit back and decide, very open mindedly what the next step is or what the, I don't even want to say right answer is, but the next answer is for you to go ahead and move with.
And do you, when you are making decisions based on the system of karma, do you know the outcomes?
As far as what, when you say
Whatever
outcomes,
it is that you're deciding of what that decision's outcomes will be.
yeah, for me, I understand that it helps me sleep at night. Usually the responses are based in karma. They're typically ones that give off and provide good energy, goodwill, good intent, and stay away from any selfish intent, which isn't always bad. I understand that, but I'm in the headspace of really just interacting with other people as far as karma is concerned. That always helps me at the end of the night. Just knowing that I was as good as I could be to the people around me.
I have a total yes or no question that would not be good coaching question at this point. So, which because I think I could explore in this space with you for a while, and because I had thought processes of, but we're running out of time of asking about, is thinking through. You're taking a while to think through your decisions a bad thing, or is it, or what does that result in?
Yeah.
And there also was an inclination in me to lead, and I was trying my best not to. Um, uh, but in that, though, and just exploring that space a little bit, how do you feel about karma now?
Again, still believe it. I have a confirmed bias that's the way to live. Um, but I will say I'm absolutely open to not sometimes subscribing to it, if there's a time to do so, because kind of like we mentioned earlier, and not to step out of this coaching session, but we did mention that, really where the work gets done is when you do have time to sit and kind of consider the other options, the alternatives. And that's where the growth comes for you as a person.
Well,
Um,
I think we no, this is observation in the, and it's totally not coaching hat off all the way.
mhm.
With the karma is serving a purpose for you. It absolutely is. And it's making your life easier and everything along those lines. You might find some where I could see it limiting, I guess you could say, is that you're taking responsibility and putting it outside of yourself, right? Whereas you might discover some serious empowerment when you say, okay, I don't, even when you could say, I don't know what the outcome will be, good or bad. I'm doing this because I'm doing this and I'm choosing to, and not for the sake of that. But that doesn't, I mean, not to say that karma is wrong or bad. I think it's a beautiful and amazing thing. And I have similar feelings about, you put good out there, you get good back. And I know that I want to put my head on the pillow and feel like a good human being every night. And that I didn't hurt anybody along the way. And that's what's important to me. But we can unintentionally hurt people. So
Yes.
But you could see though in that space we were exploring, and I actually saw him becoming a little more flexible too. I don't know if you guys felt that way, but or if you saw that, Anthony. But I saw some there was him sort of ease into like, wait, well, I didn't really think of it that way before for a moment. And that's all with just exploring the, what does that give you? How does that make you feel? What does that do for you?